technology takes over, sending the NASDAQ soaring. And feeling the need for speed, Porsche unveils its new Roadster. Good evening, everybody. I'm Sue Herrera. Here's our top story tonight. Investors turn bullish on technology. Leading the charge, Intel. Solomon Brothers analyst Erica Clower raising her investment rating to a strong buy from hold. Clower sees strong chip demand in Europe and Asia, and in response, boosted Intel's fourth quarter earnings estimates.
Street expectations are currently at $1.83. I have an estimate of $1.98, and I think even my bullish estimate is going to turn out to be too low. So not only will analyst expectations be surprised on the upside, but I also think for 1997, analysts will have to revise their expectations upwards.
Shares of Intel soared 8 points on the news, and that pushed the other tech stocks higher, among them IBM, Texas Instruments, and Compaq Computer. And the strength in technology spilling over to the blue chips, too. The Dow soared 101 points, or 1.6%, erasing last Tuesday's 101-point dive. The Dow finishing the week just 16 points shy of a new record. And among the big Dow gainers, Alcoa, Merck, DuPont, and J.P. Morgan. Running down all the numbers for you, the Dow Jones Industrial Average picking up 101.60 to 65.4409. Transports jumped nearly 27 points. The utilities rose just fractionally. The NASDAQ stock market posted its second largest point gain ever, jumping just over 30 points to 1310.74. That's a 5.5 point shy of a new record. Now, most of the gains coming from technology, but one tech stock actually got clobbered. Shares of FileNet plunged 8 3/4 to 23 after warning that fourth quarter earnings would be hurt by order delays. Elsewhere in the broader markets, the S&P 500 up 1103, the Russell 2000 up almost 3 points, and the Amex index up 329. For the week as a whole, the Dow Jones Industrial Average, not really a bad loss considering all the volatility we've had, down 1682 at 65.4409. The NASDAQ, meanwhile, managed to gain almost 20 points, a big gain for that index on the week, 1310.68. And that's the way things shaped up at the end of this volatile trading week and the first Friday in 1997. The auto stocks finished mixed as December sales figures started to roll in. Shares of General Motors dropped about 5/8, while Ford and Chrysler edged higher. The year and the numbers also giving the first glimpse as to how the industry performed throughout 1996. Our Sharon Epperson has been taking the pulse, following the numbers, and joins us now to tell us what it all means. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, Sue. Chrysler reported earlier today that its December sales were up 5% compared to the same period in 1995. And overall sales for 1996 were up 13%, making last year one for the record books. Product, design, and marketing are three keys to success in the auto industry, and Chrysler seems to have found a way to combine them in what has resulted in record sales for the number 3 automaker. Chrysler's 1996 sales were 13% higher than the previous year, with minivans and Jeeps seeing the sharpest rise, a 17% gain over 1995. One analyst describes Chrysler as the comeback kid, a manufacturer that has excelled in making the most competitive vehicles.
They have a very flexible management, flexible way of designing vehicles, and they've hit on at least a design standard, a design team that seems to have struck a very responsive chord with consumers.
Last year, Chrysler sold a total of 2.4 million cars and trucks, compared to 2.1 million in 1995. That tops the company's previous record of 2.2 million vehicles sold in 1988. Financial troubles in the late 70s and early 90s required Chrysler to rethink their building and design. They came up with a new product, the minivan, which continues to be a top seller.
What's nice about the minivan is that you're going to get all the comfort of a sedan, but the roominess of a station wagon. With the dual sliding doors, passengers are able to get in and out from both sides, which Chrysler was the first one to introduce that in '96.
General Motors reported a 14% decline in 1996 sales.
Chrysler continues to be on a roll. They've been gaining market share throughout the whole year. We're expecting GM probably to be down mid double digits, perhaps as much as 15%. And Ford up a little bit, with trucks up a lot and cars down a little.
And for the new year, sales for the overall industry are expected to be flat.
I don't think 97 will be better. The A.G. Edwards outlook has essentially been that the auto industry is peaking or has peaked.
Analysts say if industry sales remain flat, it may be difficult for U.S. automakers to gain market share. But Chrysler may continue to show market growth, probably at the expense of other American car makers. Sue?
So what can we expect in the new year, 1997, from the auto industry?
Well, analysts say to pay close attention to used car sales. They may soften the new car sales, and that's going to be a pretty good indication of how the auto industry is going to do for 97. But they're expecting it to be pretty flat.
All right. Thank you so much, Sharon. Sharon Epperson with the latest on the auto industry. Well, it appears that the cost of gassing up that new car will not be coming down anytime soon. The Energy Department also saying that home heating oil will cost more this winter. But how much more? Hampton Pearson reports.
On the West Coast, it's been one wave after another of heavy winter storms, with melting snow causing widespread flooding. As 1997 begins, U.S. energy officials say the weather over the next few months will be the biggest factor in determining what happens to heating oil prices. Prices are expected to average about $1.06 per gallon, 10 cents a gallon more than last year. But the Energy Department forecasts say colder weather could cause even further price hikes.
There's a lot of uncertainty in this market. We'll need to track it very closely, and prices still remain at very high levels.
The heating oil surge or the heating oil scare, to a certain degree, can be considered almost over. I mean, you're actually pretty well into the winter. People's tanks are probably filled for the next several weeks, and if you get a spike in February, you just draw down inventories.
While heating oil prices are weather sensitive, gasoline prices are more predictable, high and going higher. The Energy Department predicts global crude oil prices will top $21 per barrel over the next 2 years, with gasoline prices 14 cents a gallon higher than a year ago. The December average nationwide was $1.22 a gallon, but prices during the peak summer season will top $1.36 a gallon, right where they were last year. Government officials blame higher crude oil prices and industry efforts to tighten inventory controls.
In a competitive energy industry, one way of reducing costs is by reducing your inventories. Inventories do have a cost.
But oil industry officials deny inventories are kept low as a hedge against future price drops.
The crude oil prices are high because the demand for that crude oil relative to the supply has been increasing substantially over the last year. So that is what's driven up crude oil prices. It's also what has prevented inventories from building in a more normal manner.
Despite rising prices, government officials predict a 2% increase in demand this year, topping 8 million barrels per day for the first time. Hampton Pearson, CNBC Business News, Washington.
President Clinton today suspended enactment of the Helms-Burton Law for another 6 months. That law would allow U.S. citizens to sue foreign companies doing business with communist Cuba. The administration cited an allied effort to move Cuba towards democracy.
The President has reviewed these developments and believes that we have made real progress toward creating for the first time a multinational push for democracy in Cuba.
President Clinton, vacationing in the Virgin Islands, says that he will continue to suspend that law as long as progress is made. GOP leaders say the movement to oust House Speaker Newt Gingrich is pure politics. Republican Chairman Haley Barbour says that he expects virtually all House Republicans to support Gingrich's re-election bid as Speaker.
Democrats were clamoring for a conclusion until they decided it was against their interest. And, of course, the reason the Democrats realized the conclusion is against their interest is because the findings against Speaker Gingrich are insignificant.
However, at least 20 Republicans have expressed uncertainty now that Mr. Gingrich has admitted violating House ethics rules. And the latest twist in the Texaco saga, all still ahead on Business Tonight. Shares of State Street Boston up 8 to 71. Bank of New York is seeking approval to double its stake in State Street Boston to 10%. Analysts say it could be a prelude to a full-scale takeover, but State Street's board says it believes the company should remain independent. Bank of New York gained 3/4 to 34 today. Texaco has agreed to federal oversight of its minority hiring and promotion practices. James Lee, regional attorney for the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, argued that the agreement was needed to protect the public interest.
That agreement provides for future compliance on the part of the company, extensive record keeping and monitoring by the commission in order to determine whether they're doing the right thing from now on out.
Last November, Texaco agreed to settle a racial discrimination suit for $176 million. Today, an attorney for the plaintiffs praised the court action.
Not only are we going to be looking over their shoulder, but the United States government is going to be looking over their shoulder, and I think that's very, very important.
Texaco says the agreement is consistent with measures already announced. The oil giant says they should satisfy all the EEOC's concerns. Still to come, all the news you need to stay ahead of the curve. The latest buzz from corporate America and riding in style. The automakers get ready to unveil some slick new models. We'll have a preview when Business Tonight continues.
Thank you for watching, and remember to like, comment, and subscribe.